Causes. The policy of building up a strong military to prepare for war. Alliances. Arguments between nations to provide aid and protect one another long before the war began. Countries in these groups had made arguments to work together and help one another if there was a war. So when war did break out in 1914, parts of Europe were already divided into two sides. The opposing sides were Triple Alliance, Italy, Austria, Hungary, and Germany. Triple Entity, Russia, France, and Britain. Nationalism. Extreme pride in one's country. At the settlement of Congress of Vienna in 1815, the principle of nationalism was ignored in favor of preserving the peace. Parallelism. Great Britain, Germany, and France needed foreign markets after the increase in manufacturing caused by the Industrial Revolution. These countries competed for economic expansion in Africa. Assassination of Austrian Archduke. Francis Ferdinand was killed in Bosnia by Serbian nationalist group called the Black Hand. Types of weapons in the World War I. Machine gun, poison gas, submarine, airplane, and tanks. World War I was a time of fast change. Creative minds and great engineers worked together to develop new technology. Some of this technology we use today, like personal cameras, telephones, and radios. Live in the 1919. The school in 1919, during the World War, the school had children of different ages sitting together in the lessons. There were often up to 60 children in a class. At the front would be big wooden blackboard on a stand, on which the teacher wrote using a stick of chalk. Near to the teacher's desk was an iron stove with coal fire during the winter. School dinners. The breakfast in 1906 was cocoa, porridge, and bread and butter. Perhaps they hoped it would get the children to school on time, and they might do better at their lessons if they were not hungry. The homes. In 1914, there were big differences in homes depending on how rich or poor a family was. The richest upper-class families owned land and had two houses, one in the country and one in town. Their homes had 20 rooms or more. Manual workers. Working class people worked in factories, on farms, or in heavy industrial such as coal mining and steel working. They earned $50 to $100 a year or less. Families lived in cottages and joined together terraced houses with 3 or 4 rooms. Many of these small rooms had an outside toilet and no bathroom. The very poor, who often didn't have jobs, lived in the overcrowded and dirty slums. Whole families sometimes lived in one room in badly kept houses and tenements, apartment blocks. They had to share a toilet with other families. Old slums were being cleared, but in 1914 there were still plenty up in the big cities. During World War I, the high street looked very different from how it is today. There were no supermarkets or shopping centers. Shops were smaller, and many were named after the families who owned them. To buy the things a family needed meant walking to lots of different shops, like the butcher for meat, the tailor for clothes, the baker for bread, and the greengrocer for fruit and vegetables. There were lots of posters on the walls and notice boards encouraging people to support the war. Every high street had a recruitment office where men could join the army or navy. The invention of street lamps. Gas lighting became a popular way of lighting streets in the early 1800s. At first, gas lamps had to be lit by hand, but self-lighting mechanism was later invented. The jobs for people in the World War I. Lamplighter. His job was to turn the lights on and off throughout the city. When the enemy was approaching the city, it should be completely dark for his own protection. The tailor. He knows how to measure and cut and sew perfect shirts, jackets, and trousers of the time. It was a much requested craft. Tea shop. They sold a variety of products to eat, and they were charming to their customers. Grocery store. The people before the war, the store was a very good business, but people did not buy so much at the beginning of the war due to the product of shortages and lack of money. The butcher. Usually he sold peasant roosters and partridges and rabbits. Police. He patrolled the streets on foot, making sure everyone is safe, secure, and good neighbors. Recruiting officers. The minister of the war asked men to offer themselves as volunteers to fight in the army. The newspaper seller. People like to know what happened in the war. This boy sold the newspaper in the streets every morning. Boy Scout. This boy tries to help people and soldiers in the front line. The woman post. Work at the post office and open and read all the letters to verify they do not contain information that can be used by the enemy. Results: Germany surrounded. Allies imposed Treaty of Versailles, declares Germany guilty for war. This sets the stage for World War II. Language of nations formed to try to prevent war in the future. Ed.